1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, April 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 8 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Masks will once again be required for students. According to Ottawa's largest school board, they voted to bring back a mask mandate last night. Here's City News reporter Prushka Gobalkista.
This move from the Ottawa Carleton District School Board comes nearly 3 weeks after the province lifted most of the health mandates, which said it was optional for students to wear a mask. Now, many of those who voted for the return of masks say it's because of COVID-19 detection in wastewater levels. Now, many of those who voted for the return of masks say it's because COVID-19 detection in Ottawa's wastewater levels are concerning. One trustee pointed out to how COVID-19 has impacted not just students but also teachers.
A number of students in my zone have been really suffered with the classroom closures, and certainly principals are put in a tough situation where they're having to pick and choose, from all angles, who to cover for the classes.
8 of the school board's trustees voted in favor, while one voted against the motion, saying that masks shouldn't be reinforced in schools. Perishka Gopal-Kista, City News.
Now, more with the board chair, Lynn Scott. That's coming up this morning on the Rob Snow Show. City News Time, 9:01. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Not as nice for us today as it was yesterday. You'll need the umbrella at times. We've already reached the high for the day. For the afternoon, we'll sit at about 9 degrees. Tonight, more light rain and 6, and tomorrow, some showers and 14. For today, the high near 9.
And right now it's 8 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. A local Liberal MPP is slamming the provincial government's response to the 6th wave of COVID-19. Here's City News reporter Alex Gouge with that story.
Ottawa South MPP John Fraser says the Ford government is showing a lack of urgency and a sense of indifference to the 6th wave and is instead focusing on the election. Fraser wants the province to bolster booster shots and second doses for kids while requiring masking in essential settings. The MPP tells City News he is also concerned Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, didn't hold any briefings for 5 weeks, which he feels was a government decision.
That person should have been available over the last 5 weeks. And in fact, we should have seen Dr. Barbara Yaffe on last week, who was an associate medical officer of health, who we used to see with Dr. Williams, without Dr. Williams.
Fraser adds Moore's choice to go on vacation amid the current wave reflects bad timing and a lack of transparency. Alex Gouge, City News.
And more from the provincial opposition parties coming up shortly on the Rob Snow Show with NDP leader Andrea Horwath. City News Time, 9:03. Heartened by Russia's withdrawal from Ukraine's capital region, residents in the town of Irpin have started coming home, at least to what's left of it. This woman says she's just trying to clean up the damage, but admits no one is safe.
Our main problem now is Russians still in our country, so we have to win war, and then we will decide. The houses, it's not really the most important thing in our life. Of course, we all feel pain and it's hard and it's terrible, but people are suffering, people are dying.
7 million Ukrainians have been displaced inside their country by this war. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Headlines say X.
He's got the Y.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Busy, busy, busy. It's another busy day in the news business. And that's just the way we like it. Here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. And good morning and welcome to it. Hey, coming up, she is the leader of the official opposition in the Ontario legislature, and she's gearing up for her 4th election campaign as leader of Ontario's New Democrats. And there's a lot to talk about right now with Andrea Horwath. She is scheduled to join us at about 9:15. One of the things we plan on getting into Mask mandates. That's a big local story because of the vote last night at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board to bring the mask mandate back for students and staff. Passed last night. And unlike the last time this came up for a vote, this time it really wasn't close. There was one nay and a few people abstained. I think there's still some question about whether the board can even enforce this mandate. I guess the board trustees think they can. They have a legal opinion they think that's working in their favor, but I think it's actually going to take someone contesting the mandate to find out if that's really the case or not. Maybe that's why there's really no clarity on what happens next and when this is actually going to come into effect at the school in your neighborhood. For example, in Andrea Horwath's neck of the woods, Andrea is from the Hamilton area. Trustees at the public board there voted to maintain the mask mandate despite the provincial government ending the mask mandate for schools. And that was more than a month ago. And at that time, that board's interim education director told the school board trustees in Hamilton that they didn't have the authority to reimpose a mask mandate or continue enforcing a mask mandate, that they didn't have the statutory authority to supersede the province and that it was likely to face legal challenges and quite likely union grievances. So it's a big local story. I think what might happen next is probably the bigger story. We'll get into all of it with Andrea Horwath, along with what she's pitching in this election. Things like better pay for early childhood educators and better pay for people working in the childcare system and what she is calling universal mental health care. Universal mental health care. So that is coming up in just a few minutes from now. So then we'll roll out of the school board politics and the provincial election politics and right into what's happening in federal politics. And all the buzz as the week goes on is not about the Liberals. It's not about Trudeau. It's not about the budget. It's not about the Liberals and Trudeau and housing affordability measures in the budget. None of that. None of that. It's not about Jean Charest, our guest yesterday. It's not about Patrick Brown making some headlines today. No way. The buzz is all about Poilievre and the crowds that he is attracting at his rallies. I mean, he's having rallies. Other candidates are having get-togethers. Other candidates are having Zoom calls. I mean, Poilievre's having rallies, and they're events. They are events. And he just packing them in there like sardines wherever he goes. And he was in Calgary yesterday. Friendly territory for him. Second home advantage for him, home field advantage. He was at Spruce Meadows, the equestrian place. Crowd size estimate 5,000. 5,000 people to see Pierre Poilievre. David has some of the sound. This is what it sounded like. Crazy, right? Yeah. 5,000 people to see a politician. And it's not like he's a new politician. I mean, he's been around. You know, Poilievre's been a politician 18 years. He's been an MP for 18 years, I believe. It's not like he's all shiny and brand new. But I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything like this. for a conservative politician, especially. I mean, I'm 50, so I missed the original Trudeau mania in 1968. I wasn't around for that. I was around for Trudeau mania, the sequel, in 2015 when Justin Trudeau was running, and he was kind of shiny and brand new. But I don't even think, I mean, there was an excitement and there was a buzz. I remember the column in The Citizen that's Justin Trudeau does not shake your hand, he inhabits it. He inhabits your hand. Justin Trudeau inhabits your hand. You remember that? Justin Trudeau inhabits your hand. Do you remember that?
Just weird.
I have the script coming up. I have a script in my archives. Justin Trudeau does not shake your hand. He inhabits it. But whatever. What is Poilievre inhabiting now? He inhabited Spruce Meadows last night with a crowd of 5,000, but I don't think Trudeau packed them in like this in 2015. I mean, this is really something to see. But what does it all mean for the Conservative leadership race? I mean, there are so many questions about what it means. It seems that the Poilievre campaign has all the momentum of a runaway freight train. Is it going to be a coronation? Or, all the candidates, they're just a bunch of also-rans now? We will ask our strategists when they join us, and we'll score our political fix. Tim Powers is with Summa Strategies, and Cam Holmstrom is with Bluesky. And we'll talk about all of this. 5,000 people to see a Canadian politician who has been a part of the political scene in Ottawa for almost 2 decades. Pierre Poilievre, the 18-year overnight success story. After the 9:30 news. And it's Bank of Canada Day. We're just waiting for the news flash on interest rates. The official announcement on interest rates from the Bank of Canada out within the hour. Everyone in economic circles expecting a 50 basis point interest rate hike on overnight money, taking the overnight rate to 1%, while the last inflation reading by way of the CPI was 5.7%. The next inflation number comes out next week. We had an economist, senior economist, Bank of Montreal, Sal Guadiari, on our show 48 hours ago and told us he expected the inflation number to be higher when it is announced next week. He called it a 6-handle. We're looking for a 6-handle, Rob. 6% inflation in Canada. It was 8.5% reported in the United States yesterday. That's the hottest inflation reading in 41 years, 8.5%, but they calculate things different there in the United States. Used cars, much more of a factor. The UK inflation rate is out, and it was 7%. 5.7 last reading here. That was before Russia invaded Ukraine, before $100 oil. So everyone expects a higher inflation reading and a 50 basis point move from the bank. The tightening begins 1% after today, but where does it go from here? We're all over that story this morning. Pedro Antunes will join us. Pedro Antunes is the chief economist at the Conference Board of Canada here in Ottawa. And we'll do the Talkback Hour. Coming up between 10 and 11 o'clock is the Talkback Hour. Your phone calls, your opinions at 750-1310. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. And the topic today, COVID-19, the 6th wave, the pandemic is not over. What I want to ask you, is it still affecting your day-to-day life? Or is your life largely back to normal? Is your life back to normal? Or is it still being impacted because of COVID-19? How do you answer that question? You think about your day-to-day life. You go about your routine. Is your routine pretty much back to normal now? Is it the way it used to be before we ever heard of COVID-19 coronavirus, before anyone had ever heard of the pandemic? Or is your life still being impacted, disrupted because of COVID-19, because of the 6th wave? That's our Talkback Hour question this morning. On the Rob Snow Show, Andrea Horwath, leader of Ontario's New Democrats, coming up next on the City News.
Big crowd here tonight at the Ottawa Civic Centre, the OHL Championship Game 6. Two of the best face-off men in the OHL meeting right here at the Civic Centre. Zenon Konopka against Stephen Weiss. And we're underway as John Zion grabs. He gets across the blue line. Quick shot right on. Zepp, no problem. High off the glass. Back to center for Ottawa. Sellers. Pass up to Bauman. It's bumped off the puck. Wisniewski. Puck up.
Talking earlier today that sometimes in big games it's a lucky bounce that can decide things. Was he ever right on this play so far? Watch Sozanov going the opposite way. Just take a whack at it. Look at Talbot strip the puck from Oosternaal. There it is in front of the net, and Sozanov gets a piece of it, and it goes in behind Rob Zepp. Bowman carries the puck up the ice. Then Talbot strips him, and there's Sozanov, who outwins the assignment with the back-checking Damien Summa, and Ottawa's got the lead.
John Zion for Ottawa. Up to Sozanov. His pass to Talbot. One man to beat. Talbot scores! Far side. Low on Rob Zepp. Power play goal for the Ottawa 67s.
He is on fire tonight for the 67s. Look at the jump in his legs. Right here, he explodes with the puck. Head up, shot, a goal scorer's goal from the captain, Mighty Joe. And the 67s now have a stranglehold on the Plymouth Whalers. 2-0. Nothing Zepp could do on that play. He just placed it perfectly.
It had nowhere else to go.
Just a beautiful goal scorer's goal from the captain.
Tied up by two Whalers. Savage came in there, and here comes Plymouth. 3-on-2. Bernarski with Jarrett and Stewart. Centered in front. Scores! Preston Mitzi left alone in front, and Plymouth climbs to within one. Picked off by Jarrett, centered in front. Ottawa can't get a rope. Bounce off the leg. Whalers. OHL Championship.
Well, there's Brian Kilray, Zenon Konopka handing him the cup.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Leader of the opposition in the Ontario legislature and the leader of Ontario's New Democrats is with us this morning here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. Andrea Horwath, welcome back.
Thank you, Rob. It's my pleasure.
Good morning. Where are you today?
I am actually driving to Eastern Ontario. I'm driving to the Bay of Quinte.
Okay.
I'm going to be in Belleville, and then I'm going to go to Napanee on the way back.
Okay. Road trip for Andrea Horwath.
Road trip.
All right. Mask mandates have been part of the conversation now for several weeks. Dr. Moore ruled it out, said things could change. The Premier has ruled it out for now as well, encouraged people to wear their masks in crowded places. Here last night, the Ottawa Carleton District School Board voted to reinstate the mask mandate for its schools. What do you think should happen with the mask mandate?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the school board it needs to be congratulated because their focus, obviously, is the well-being of children and educators in the school system. We, the NDP, have been calling for the government to reinstate mask mandates in schools for some time now. In fact, I was asking that question in question period just the other day and got shut down by the government. But the reality is the Public Health Ontario, a number of experts, school boards, including now the Ottawa School Board. So both health experts as well as education experts are all calling for the same thing. And of course, as you probably know, CHEO has done some good research on the the spread of COVID-19 from little ones that are coming home from school with the virus. And so, look, we all know that vaccines and masking are the things that help us fight the pandemic. And so with the sixth wave and the Omicron subvariant, let's do what we need to do and put this behind us.
Okay. What is your understanding about the authority of school boards to enforce a local mask mandate? As I understand it, for example, the public board in your area, Hamilton, voted to extend its mask mandate when it was about to expire under provincial authority, but there was some question about whether the school board had the authority to actually do it. Do school boards, what's your understanding? Do they have the authority to even do this?
My understanding is that the government made it quite clear that they do not agree with the school board's activity, and that's problematic. I can say quite bluntly that Hamilton got a pretty bad smackdown from the Minister of Education and the government. And there have been a number of boards that have also tried to do the right thing by their community, and they're getting the same negative feedback from the government. And I think it's hard for parents. Parents who want to send their kids to school with masks to protect their kids as well as their families. They do everything they can, but then kids get into classrooms and their peers, their classmates are not wearing masks. And so then there becomes a difficulty in, convincing your kids that, they have to keep their masks on even though their friends don't. And it becomes quite a fiasco for parents and for kids. Really mixed messages, really challenging and chaotic. And the government could fix this by doing the right thing and bringing a mask mandate back to our schools.
Okay. All right. What is your reaction to the news that Dr. Moore was on vacation recently? I mean, is that,
well,
do you begrudge someone in that's a pressure-filled position, I'm sure, to be the chief medical officer of health for Ontario during a pandemic? Do you begrudge him for taking a vacation, or?
No, I don't begrudge him at all. He's worked hard, and absolutely, it's probably the most stressful position anybody has at this point in time in Ontario, and so I don't begrudge him the need to get some time away and relax. But what I do begrudge is the Premier lying about it. I mean, that's what I begrudge. I mean, the Premier said last week that Dr. Moore was meeting with local medical officers of health when we were asking, why has there not been an update from the chief medical officer? So Doug Ford lied to families, lied to people, lied to Ontarians about the whereabouts of Dr. Moore, and that's what I begrudge. And I think that's what Ontarians are tired of, a premier that just makes stuff up on the fly, who isn't honest with the people, and it reduces confidence. Why didn't he just say that Dr. Moore deserved a holiday, that he was on holiday and it was a much deserved holiday? I think that's where we're all at in terms of what actually happened. There's no need to try to muddy the waters or pull the wool over the eyes of Ontarians.
Okay. Andrea Horwath is with us this morning, the leader of Ontario's New Democrats. One of your major election campaign promises is a plan for a universal mental health care program. What would be covered?
Well, thanks for raising this one. It's extremely important, and I think COVID really did show us just how lacking we are in Ontario with mental health supports and programs for people. And so we know that mental health pain is just as difficult to deal with as physical pain. And so what we've decided is that it's time we put mental health into our OHIP system so you can get services with your OHIP card instead of your credit card. And that includes boosting up existing services that currently have wait lists that last sometimes 18 months, and people can be on wait lists for 18 months to 2 years for mental health. So we're going to also provide more access by ensuring that more providers that can do this work will be able to. So we'll be paying for upgrading of training for social workers, for example, and nurses and doctors to be able to provide that capacity, starting with 6 sessions of initial therapy, and then at that point reassessment. Does therapy do the job, or do you need to go to a more specialized mental health support, a psychologist or psychiatrist? These are the kinds of things that people deserve and need access to, and it's about time we did that in this province.
Okay. One more thing. Under the recent child care agreement between the federal and provincial government, I'm pretty sure that the guaranteed minimum wage was $18 an hour. In those settings, you are making an election promise, $25 an hour minimum wage for registered early childhood educators and $20 an hour minimum wage for all other child care program staff. Why?
Well, really, Rob, the reason is if we're going to have a child care system that can expand to provide the support, the child care spaces for parents and families that need them, we need to stabilize the sector. And the sector has been, a mess for a very long time. We were all disappointed when this wasn't addressed by the previous government, the Liberal government. In fact, the woman I had talking with me yesterday about this said that in 2017 she was getting $18 an hour, and she left a permanent child care position as an ECE because she wasn't making enough money to pay her own bills and feed her own family. And that was in 2017 under the Liberals. So 2022, Doug Ford offering $18 an hour this many years later, 5 years later, is a slap in the face to ECEs. So let's pay them what they're worth. This is caring work that women do, and it needs to be acknowledged and recognized as important. So $25 an hour is what the recommendation has been for the experts to stabilize the system, and we're committed to that, as well as working on, the future. And so what does a pay grid look like going forward? We need to engage the sector, engage the unions on that. What kind of benefits and pensions do we need to put in place? What do we need to do to ensure folks have the planning time to provide the quality childcare that the kids deserve, and that really does set kids up for success in life and in learning, on an ongoing basis. There's a lot to do to fix the system. We can't do it by shortchanging the women that work in the system.
Okay. Just one final thing. Gilles Bisson's been a regular panelist on the Rob Snow Show since we started here at City News, and for years and years and years before that on another radio station. It has to be 12, 15 years. I know he had a heart attack. On behalf of myself, our team, all our listeners, please wish him a speedy recovery and all the best. And hope he's doing well. We'll really miss him on the radio for a little while here. So
yeah, he's going to take a couple weeks out, but he's in really great spirits. He says his doctors are very happy with where he's at, and he's, Gilles. Yeah. Nothing keeps Gilles down, so he's looking forward to getting back on the campaign trail as soon as possible. Good. But thank you for that. I do appreciate it, and I will let him know.
Okay. Safe travels on your road trip, Andrea Horwath. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yep. Andrea Horwath, the leader of the official opposition here in Ontario, the leader of Ontario's New Democrats on her way to Quinte Region, she said. 9:28 on the Rob Snow Show. Turn our attention to federal politics, and we'll score our political fix. Coming right up on City News.
The Rob...
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, April 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 9 degrees, in Smiths Falls, 10. And here's what's making news this hour. Opposition leader in the province, Andrea Horwath, is congratulating the Ottawa Carleton School Board for a decision to reinstate the mask mandate. Andrea Horwath says most experts, along with CHIO, do advocate for mask wearing, so the public board has taken a positive step as we are in this sixth wave of COVID-19. American President Joe Biden says Russia is committing genocide in Ukraine. The French president says he won't go that far, but does call the invasion an excessively brutal war. Emmanuel Macron says he would like to restore peace, but isn't sure an escalation of words will serve that cause. Variable mortgage rates, they're going to cost you a little bit more after today. The Bank of Canada expected to raise the rate by 0.5 point. That rate hike is coming this morning. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's time to score your political fix. The chair of Summa Strategies is back with us, Tim Powers. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you're well. Cam Holmstrom is with us as well, consultant at Bluesky Strategy Group. Good morning, Cam.
Good morning, Rob.
Now, look, you're not in Kenora, are you, Cam?
I so wish I was.
You wish you were. Huh?
I wish.
Getting ready for the storm of the century, or what?
Exactly. These are the things I miss about being from northwestern Ontario in the spring. Beautiful things like this. My parents are on the island at their place out in the middle of nowhere in front of the fireplace. Man, I wish I was there.
Gosh, it sounds like they're going to get a heck of a storm.
Yeah.
For parts of Manitoba anyway. All right, 9:33 here, Rob Snow Show, City News, your political fix. The scene is Calgary, Spruce Meadows. Spruce Meadows, normally an equestrian event, but they're out to see another horse, the leading horse in the horse race, the Conservative leadership race. And this is the man of the hour. It's Pierre Poilievre being introduced. Let's listen to this. Listen to this. Wow. 5,000 people is the estimate for the crowd side last night. And they had a chant going at one point last night. Apparently, this is very popular at these Pierre Poilievre rallies. Let's listen to this. Okay. Defund the CBC. defund. All right, okay. At least they don't they're not what they don't want to lock up Ian Hannah-Mansing or anything like that. Right? Okay, but apparently that's I don't know. That's what gets the crowd really going is when they start doing that defund the CBC thing. But look, he draws a crowd. The videos, the pictures, they are impressive. But Cam, in your opinion, what do they mean? Do they mean anything? What do you think, Cam?
Well, you know what? I'm not going to dismiss it because I've done a few leadership campaigns myself, and I know the challenge that can come with trying to pack a room and trying to get people there. So obviously he's doing something. But what the end effect is going to be, I guess that's what I'm holding judgment on. Because at the end of the day, it's about selling memberships. And who is it that's showing up in the room? In Calgary, I don't think there's a lot of new people to be converted in that room. So honestly, are a lot of them already members? Were they already involved? I look at other places maybe where they might be looking to grow. If we get a bigger crowd there, I might take a little more stock in it. But in the end, it's a membership game. It's all about getting people signed up and getting them turned out to vote. Now, this can help drive that, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But still, it's something to take some pride in on their part because, they are packing a room and making a scene, and no one else in the campaign can say they're pulling that off.
Yeah, okay. Just before we get to Tim, you ever draw a crowd of 5,000 for any of the leadership races you were in?
No, I haven't. No? I can honestly say
anything close? Anything close? Anything close?
You know what? I not a campaign I was working on, but when Jagmeet Singh, I've seen some packed 4-digit rooms. I've seen that with my own two eyes. And but you know what though? In this country, it's rare. It is rare. I think something that's factoring into this, frankly, is COVID. Is that people are more eager to get out after all of this, right? Let's be honest. You're in the springtime. It's warm.
Hey, what should we do tonight? Well, there's a Polyev event. Let's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
All right. Don't have to wear a mask. Don't have to show proof of vaccination.
Rob,
Go ahead, Tim. Yep. Go ahead, Tim.
So you and I would go to Smooth Herman's, but
we would go to Smooth Herman's. That's right. Yep.
Cape Breton. Look. I
see Minglewood. We go see Minglewood, right?
Minglewood. That's right.
Sam Moon Band. something like that.
Sure. Matt Mays. What I was going to say, I agree with Cam. They shouldn't be dismissed. They do indicate, if nothing else, that the Polyev team has a really good database. They're good at activating that database and getting them out. That's probably as far as you can take it at the moment. And that the other point, I guess, is that they have a message track that is connecting with people. And nobody, whether they be fellow conservatives or liberals, should underestimate that. There's a big difference, though, there could be a big difference between a curated crowd and translating all of that crowd into members who then, over a period of 6 or 8 weeks, are going to vote for the candidate. I think the Polyev campaign has deliberately decided that their strategy is to show through crowds, to getting the story to be about the crowds, that they have a momentum, whether real or not, to be determined, that they are the one to be beaten, and it's standard campaign strategy in that regard. The truth of the crowds and what they add up to in the end, I don't think we're going to know for a while.
Okay, all right, okay. In some commentaries, Polyev's described as a populist. He's a populist. His pitch is described as the Trumpification of Canadian politics. How fair are these descriptions in your opinion, Cam?
They're not unfair. I would call him a populist in the sense that I think that more libertarian politicians these days take a more populist bent, and I think that's probably where he falls in the spectrum. When it comes to Trumpification, he didn't start that. He didn't create it. But I think he's tried to run to the front of that parade and see as if he should seem to be leading it if he can. When you look at what he's doing, when you look at what happened when Trump rose to the presidency in the States, it wasn't this uniting message that brought all conservatives together or Republicans together in the States under this idea of, get behind me, I'm great. He literally crushed everyone else in the audience, everyone else in the field. He attacked them viciously. And Poilievre's been doing that throughout this campaign. He's gone after Charest. He's gone after Brown. He's gone after everyone with every invective he can come at. And when someone comes back at him with legitimate criticism, he doubles down on the tactic and goes right back at him. Like, it's not something that I don't think you can build unity through force in that way. But you can win a leadership race that way, and that seems to be the path that they're taking right now. So in that sense, yeah, it's a little Trumpy. But he didn't create this approach. He's just working within the lines that have already been drawn out there for the last 5 years.
Okay. Is Skippy being Trumpy, Tim?
I agree with Cam. We're agreeing too much. There's elements of that there. Look, he's demonstrated, though, demonstrating he's a sophisticated political marketer, and that he's learned the lessons well of the Harper era and everything since then. He is a student and practitioner of modern professional politics in all of its realm, and he's playing it out to the best of effect he can in hopes that will win for him.
I think the nature of the rallies and the way they're being presented, like that defund the CBC thing, he apparently does that at every city he goes to, right? The performative nature of the rally is kind of Trumpian, I would say. Trump did a lot of that. Wherever, Trump goes to Phoenix and he does the locker up thing. But the message, he's not on those Trump messages. He's not, railing against immigrants. He's not being anti-women. He's not attacking, free trade or anything. He's not calling he may be attacking the policies of his opponents, but he's not calling them stupid and sleepy and stuff like that.
The way he's calling Charest a liberal sounds more like an attack line or an invective than it does a proper description of it either. He's pushing up against those lines. Like the way he used the word gatekeepers. Is something too that kind of it dances right up to that line, and a couple times gets the total just over it.
What do you like gatekeepers? What do you take away from that when he says that? What does that register for you?
Well, to me, that's it's a lot. It's an attack on this idea of you're elites, you're this, you're that. And Trump did use a lot of that, even though he came very much from that same class of people, right? So, and the thing is, it allows him to put it out there without actually putting any detail behind it. Because here we are, we're talking what exactly constitutes the gatekeepers. He's never said what it is. I don't expect him to go into it in great detail before the end, but it makes a great boogeyman. It makes a great target to go after, and that's something that Trump did do over time. It was, again, putting up those straw men all over the place and just constantly smacking them down.
Okay. I'll tell you that the video on housing, it's one of the best social media videos I've ever seen. When he walks up to that little house and said, "Feast your eyes on the home of your dreams." I mean, gosh, he sounds like he should be a real estate agent. I mean, it's incredible. Listen to this guy. Listen, play that, David.
Want to see a $5 million house here in Vancouver? Feast your eyes on the home of your dreams. Here it is. $4.8 million is the listing price for this baby. Now, before I go any further, let me acknowledge that a realtor
David.
would tell you.
Yeah, feast your eyes on this. Yeah.
But Rob, you're hitting on something fascinating here, right? Because Pierre is doing no mainstream media, we are all serving up what he wants us to serve up.
Lots of earned media, right? Yeah.
Crowds. We're talking about housing. And again, whether you like Pierre or you don't like Pierre, credit to him for setting the agenda, but let's remember it is being set for us, and his opponents need to find a way to either start to destabilize that a little bit or let it bring some scrutiny to all of that. But the longer he is allowed to do this, he's going to continue to do this, and it's hard not to cover the leadership race without talking about crowds in his videos. So they're clever that way.
Well, I'll tell you, David just looked it up. That housing video, 410,000 views on Twitter in 48 hours. Now, are all of them from Canada? Who knows, right? But
you know what, Rob? You know what I find interesting about all this?
Yeah.
and John Ivison wrote a good piece on this last night, and I think it really speaks to this, is that who else did just this kind of thing? This is a very Trudeau approach to things. Like
the oversimplification. But also that nice presentation, the video, that voice, all of that, right? Like for everything that Mr. Poilievre has spent the last how many years attacking, he's basically cribbing it, borrowing it, and turning it to his own whim. I can't ignore the irony behind that, but yeah, he's good at it. You cannot deny the stagecraft and the ability there. But the problem is that how do you beat that person at their exact same game when your criticism is just that they're being themselves? It's an interesting line to walk. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the Conservative Party's leadership race. I had a chance to speak with Jean Charest yesterday. He thinks, as you well know by now, that Poilievre's support for the truckers should come back to bite him. We'll ask you about that. And gosh, it's nasty, it's personal, it's vicious, it's just, you wonder if the Conservative Party is going to survive as an intact force after all of this. It's been so bitter, and we have a whole summer to go. So the future of the Conservative Party after such a mean and nasty leadership campaign. Oh, and yeah, there was a federal budget as well. We'll talk about that too. Rob Snow Show, your political fix on City News.
The Rob Snow Show, brought to you by Myers Automotive Group.
If you don't want to die young, you're gonna have to get old. Don't keep that home fire burning, gonna wake up cold. Be thankful for the sunrise for each and every day, 'cause it only takes one lightning strike. Take it all away. You can't blame the water, you can't blame the drink. You can always blame the devil, he gets blamed for a lot of things. Darling, I can tell you that blaming won't get you far. It's only walking through the fire they learn just who you are. If you talk while your mind is racing, you can't say what's really true. If you love while your heart is racing, it gets hard to follow through. You get caught stealing daylight, you're gonna have to do the time. 'Cause pennies don't fall from heaven, and a nickel ain't worth a dime. You can't blame the water, you can't blame the drink. You can always blame the devil, he gets blamed for a lot of things. But darling, I can tell you that blaming won't get you far. It's only walking through the fire they learn just who you are. Can be angry as lightning, bitter as the wind, can rattle your sword like a storm coming in. Can be cold as a rock, mean as a snake, hard as a bullet, never own your mistake. Put your money on the same old pony, he ain't paid out yet. Seems he always comes up lame, you always lose your bet. You can't get to paradise trading on magic beans, 'cause reaching for the sky is harder than it seems. You can't blame the water, you can't blame the drink. You can always blame the devil, he gets blamed for a lot of things. Darling, I can tell you that blaming won't get you far. It's only walking through the fire that you learn just who you are.
No Show returns on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Okay, so we have Tim Powers again, chairs Summa Strategies, Cam Holmstrom with Bluesky Strategy. And we're talking federal politics, of course. It's your political fix here on the Rob Snow Show on City News. So let's talk about one of the main rivals for the Pierre Poilievre campaign, and that's Jean Charest and his campaign. He was doing the rounds of the political talk shows on the weekend and said that Poilievre's support for the truckers should disqualify him, not only as Conservative leader, but any talk about being Prime Minister. I followed up with him, Mr. Charest, yesterday when he was on my show.
If you're an elected person, either in the House of Commons or anywhere else, you're given the privilege by people to make laws, change laws. You don't have the privilege to support people who break laws. It's just not an option. And if you want to be a leader of a party, Rob, you want to be Prime Minister of Canada, you want to be the chief legislator of the nation and make laws and tell everyone else, you got to live by these laws. And you can't live in a world where laws are a buffet from which you choose what you like and you don't like. It's a pretty straightforward responsibility.
Okay, so that was Jean Charest yesterday on the Rob Snow Show. Cam, what do you think about that line of attack from Jean Charest against Pierre Poilievre?
I think it's reasonable. I think it's expected. Like, let's be real here. Like, the group that occupied downtown Ottawa for a month, their organizers were clear about their goals. They wanted to overthrow the elected government of the country. If you embrace that as an elected politician and then you want to become Prime Minister, that's as I'm being most polite, it's a serious lack of judgment on their part. Okay. And it should raise questions and it should be brought up. So, and the thing is, for Mr. Charest to bring it up, that's why I expect it, because this is a natural thing to point out. Mm-hmm. And what my concern is, and I kind of said this at the time, my worry was that what happened here in Ottawa, it would be a similar track to what happened after January 6th in the States, where we saw this awful thing happen, and everyone in the moment was like, that was unacceptable. And then over time, usual politics took over, and all of a sudden more and more people, more and more elected people embraced those that did it and said it was acceptable. Right? And I guess, to me, I guess you might be seeing some of that play out here. I hope and pray not. But the fact is, that's something that Mr. Poilievre has to answer for. He has to, and he's not the only one in that caucus. And let's just be real. Most other parties out there outside of the Conservatives are pretty unified on where they are on this, right? Most Canadians were vastly majority opposed to this. It's only the Conservatives that have a split on this matter. And this kind of like the crux of the problem they're dealing with in this leadership race. Okay, and I think Charest raising this gets to that point pretty quickly. The question is he actually able to do anything with it? And that's an open question right now.
Okay. What do you think, Tim?
I think it's a fair commentary. Certainly, as you know, I was critical of Pierre and Candace and Scheer and others who showed up there. Didn't think it was the right thing to do for a whole bunch of reasons. Whether it's disqualifying or not, I guess members will decide that. And certainly, if Jean Charest isn't bringing it at Pierre Poilievre, the Liberals are going to if he were to win. So it's a good test, if nothing else. I think part of what the proposition Mr. Charest is making is, look, it's the experienced leadership, the not chasing the headlines and the glam shots that he argues Pierre Poilievre is doing, or playing the typical American style politics. So he's trying to also set up the contrast for himself for his ballot question, which is that one of experienced leadership. But this thing is the issue of Pierre appearing and cheering, as some will argue, at the Freedom Convoy is not going to go away and will linger, I suspect, well towards the federal election, whenever that might be.
Yeah, Charest in that interview yesterday, a few more things that you kind of get from him is, okay, if Poilievre's full-throated on freedom, why is he not fighting against Bill 21? Valid point. And what is Poilievre going to do on childcare? Yeah. Now that Doug Ford has signed childcare, and Jason Kenney has signed a childcare agreement, and Scott Moe and Blaine Higgs and Tim, all the Conservative leaders in Canada have signed a childcare agreement now. Right. So,
and Patrick Brown also came out yesterday, I think, too, Rob, and said he would accept. Can I just make one point on that?
Yeah, sure.
I think what we might be missing is what we're not seeing, and you've seen Poilievre kind of wade into that as well as they continue to dominate the media agenda, sending a letter to the Conservative Party saying, well, it mightn't really be Patrick Brown, but people out there are using prepaid credit cards. We're not sure if we are or not to buy memberships. What's fascinating to me is generally how subterranean Patrick Brown has been at the moment. And I think that's causing concern, particularly for the Polyev people, because the one thing which people will consistently agree about Patrick Brown is he's a good organizer, particularly among ethno-cultural communities. And I think it worries them that they don't know what he's up to. So if Pierre is using high octane, Mr. Charest has a hybrid model, Patrick's gone the other way. He generally keeps his head down and is just signing up members, I assume, and that's a difficult thing to
Patrick Brown could be hitting up, we don't know, 25 community centers a day, right? So he'll be up before dawn and won't go to bed till midnight. So it's crazy. That's the way he is. Let's say it is Polyev at the end. Okay, let's just work from that assumption. Do you think the Liberals are loving the idea of running against a Polyev-led Conservative Party in the election, or is it something they actually fear, dread, loathe the idea? Cam, what do you think? What's going on in Liberal land right now watching?
Well, you know what? I guess it depends on two questions. A, who's leading the Liberals into that campaign? That's an open question still in my mind. Yeah. But also, too, will Polyev over that 3.5-year period have actually shown some growth emotionally? Because to me, this is the thing about leadership races, right? They force you to look at a person differently. They throw a totally different filter over top of them, and it makes them look different. And Pierre Polyev, since he first got elected in 2004 till now, is basically the same politician. It's his attacking style, the abrasiveness, the elbows up and out and in everyone's faces. And that can only get you so far. And the question is, can he actually sand down some of those rough edges? Can he actually soften it up a bit and show another side of himself? If Pierre Polyev were able to do that, oh, absolutely, I think they would be afraid of him. If he's Skippy, as we all know him, they know what they're dealing with, and they know how they can beat that, right? Whether they will or won't is different, but I think they'd be more comfortable dealing with Skippy as we know him today than maybe an evolved and mature Pierre Polyev 3 years from now. But again, that comes back down to him. Is he actually able to do it? And so far in this leadership campaign, he shows no desire to do any of that at all. He's happy being him and seeing how far it'll take him.
Okay. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Liberals' default, we're thinking Pierre is the better candidate to run against because Charest they view as experienced and capable, which he is, and they view Pierre as they see him here in Ottawa. I just point to some data from my colleague David Coletto today that he released looking at that first announcement ad of Pierre's, and he makes a number of good points, but two I'll focus on. One is Pierre's found an audience, right? Particularly of younger people, whether he can keep them, whether they stay with him, but he's connecting with people, not just conservatives on issues like housing and their ability to grow and prosper as others of us have. That's point one. Point two that David hit upon is he is demonstrating that he has the ability to campaign well and potentially win, and that he shouldn't be underestimated.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.